To moderate this discussion, we would like to invite on stage Mr. Samir Khare, ex-CIO Fullerton, India. Please get your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Khare joins us on stage. We would like to invite our other panelists, Mr. Kushal Sanghvi, Head Reliance Entertainment and Digital, Mr. Girish Rao, Head IT Marico, and Mr. Richard D'Souza, Vice President and Head Business Solutions, Mahindra and Mahindra. Please get your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for our elite panelists on stage. So with that, I would like to hand over this podium, this dais to Mr. Samir Khare. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, everyone. Without any kind of further delay, let me just move on to this very interesting topic. In fact, in today's world, we're talking about digital in every space. We had the earlier speaker speak about business value on digital. So the entire focus about building a digital enterprise and how do we kind of move forward on the digital space in the enterprise, I couldn't think of better panelists and better friends than who are here. Quick round of introduction. Girish Rao from Marico Limited, Richard D'Souza from Mahindra & Mahindra, and Kushal Sanghvi from Reliance. Between us, we realized that we have 95 years of work experience. That's almost 100 years of experience just sitting over here talking about digital initiatives. And, I thought it was a brilliant thing because from each of our organizations, whether it is in the manufacturing space or whether it is from the corporate IT function that Richard represents or from the entire Reliance digital entertainment industry perspective, we could talk about the business value that digital has achieved for our respective companies, the challenges which come up when you progress on the digital agenda, and post-implementations, how do you ensure that you continuously keep delivering business value over the period of time with digital initiatives, solutions, etc. And that's what's going to be this entire discussion about. So without too much of a delay, Girish, over to you very quickly. Would you like to share experiences at Marico wherein a digital solution or an agenda has been driven, and how has it helped deliver business value to the company?
Just to give a rundown of the SMAC journey as it is called today, we started with enterprise mobility as early as 2006 when we rolled out our PDA-based solutions for our sales force. Then we moved it on with the adoption of analytics, because the typical challenge for us as a business is that though we have ERP systems, the main challenge lies in the fact that our business is B2B2C, which means a typical ERP kind of solutions don't address most of the challenges that we have of capturing information and using that for decision making. So typical challenges were that we would want our secondary sales information, and all that information would really be used for decision making is the biggest challenge we were facing in those days, and also a challenge today. Though the nomenclature and the way you talk about it changes, but that's the key aspect of our business. See, we started with a lot of automation in terms of using enterprise mobility to capture data. But soon we realized that just having that huge amount of data is not going to make sense until unless we really use that data for decision making. That's when we took up the challenge of using analytics. One for consolidation, and second is to build trends over those data to really help the fleet on the street kind of decision making. So I mean, the way I look at it, these are technologies and challenges which are evolving. As the technologies are evolving, the challenges are also evolving. So the way I look at it is that we have deployed good amount of digital solutions for our field force and getting the voice of the customer, not the consumer, because consumers like you and me are millions. So we are still working on the social media front to really look at how do we engage with the consumer, as it were, because our typical traditional business doesn't allow us to go into that scale. I think these are the few areas where we have worked. I think I think I'll leave the for other speakers to first start and then probably add on.
No, okay. Thanks, Girish, for the perspective. Just building on that, Kushal, very quickly. I thought I heard Girish mention about the fact that social mobility, analytics, cloud, etc. There are various solutions which have been existing for quite some time.
Right.
And we're now calling it something like a digital wave. All this stitched together is producing this digital wave.
Right.
So with your entire experience and your entire piece about heading digital initiatives for Reliance and also as being involved with this space for quite some time, what's your view in terms of digital delivering business values?
So I think I must confess that I'm in a conference where I've spoken to many people across the world and in India as well. And I think digital is perhaps the most used and abused word, in fact. It gets so often used that everything is digital, right? From a phone to, I don't know what, an oven to an iron to whatever. So I think we need to be a little more careful when we use this word because we're sort of using it in just such common parlance. But yes, clearly I think digitization is sort of happening so fast. It's happening for ultimately the benefit of consumers and consumers for which we are in business. So for which, therefore, I think I'm of the firm opinion that clearly the large two pieces which at least will clearly redefine digital in India is always going to be mobile and social. Because that's the way we are as people. We're social animals. We like to talk and therefore we like to communicate. So I think in this audience of about close to about 100 odd people, I think what you should sort of first do is, I think about 10 minutes back, we were told to perhaps try and sort of greet one another through perhaps exchanging cards. I'm assuming at the next event of this sort, we'll probably shake hands and I think maybe using just, I think our mobile devices, perhaps just exchange names through, I think just some device mechanism, which already happens across the world. But I would encourage everyone to perhaps try and save all that we can in terms of paper entries and of course 5 rupees of a card as well. And try and sort of, I think, get on to LinkedIn. And of course, for all of you guys sitting in the audience, please look us up on Twitter because social is where I think the world conversations are happening. So for example, last night, I'm sure all of us woke up this morning to some nonsense which happened at the FTI. So clearly, I think social is a space that is clearly changing so fast, dramatically, that we would not know what's the next big thing. As companies, yes, because I lead digital for the entire group for Reliance, we're almost at a nanosecond hearing conversations of all sorts of customers writing good, bad, or ugly to us, demanding or appreciating us as service as well. Which means, I think clearly, I think we need to be as companies extremely responsive to every person writing into us. Today, even as stakeholders or chairmen of companies, for example, we have Mahindra and Reliance both here in terms of very large companies, and I think both our chairmen are extremely clearly very active on social. So I don't know how many of us have sort of reached out to someone like Mr. Anand Mahindra, who probably has one of the largest followings on Twitter. You write to him, and I think within few minutes, he'd respond back to you, which means that it is so real time. I think gone are the days when you sort of, I think, wait in a long line to have an interview with him or meet him at a press conference. You want to discuss something on cloud with Mr. Mahindra or with Mr. Ambani, you can just write a tweet to him, and you perhaps suddenly get a response back. Which means that, yes, clearly the future is in terms of, yes, it's coming out of, I think, the opportunity to be able to express, talk, do anything through your mobile device. Enough research is perhaps showing us the way forward in terms of saying, you know what, let's not try very hard to build strategies in terms of doing things on desktop. Because the generation which probably is the Generation Y, which is perhaps yet studying in their colleges or perhaps going to be the future managers in various, I think companies like ours, is going to grow up in a different world. They're going to grow up, I think they're already exposed to all these devices, but they're going to be sort of, when they come to the office, they're probably going to be wearing a digital belt and a digital watch and digital shoes and God knows what, or even probably have robots as friends. So we're sort of certainly poised to this future. I think given that we're talking about, I think, just the whole explosion or wave, I think I can share some examples of sort of what I've sort of experienced in a Barcelona event at the World Mobile Congress this year, wherein they clearly talk about the fact that, you know what, we don't even know in terms of sort of, I think, when we perhaps start the day and end the day, there are almost close to about over 20,000 different digital signals which come to all of us as individuals. It's just that we respond to few, we don't respond to few. And what's going to happen clearly is that in maybe the next 3 years, you're going to have your friend as your digital Samsung refrigerator giving you a notification on Facebook saying that your dinner's kept ready. And you're going to have your Ford car giving you a notification in the morning saying, fuel is over, I need sort of food in my system. You're going to drive him there, and the car is going to do more stuff. Once you leave the car, he's going to go off on his own and perhaps pick up your kids as well. So that's the future, that's digital city, and that's the country we live in. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kushal. And actually, if people are listening, there were a couple of app ideas that he kind of floated very quickly. And that's the power of the entire digital space. A lot of solutions, stitch it together, you have a fantastic proposition. That's, I think, to sum it up in terms of what Kushal mentioned in terms of the digital space. Richard, to get you into the conversation, we spoke about feet on street, we spoke about the end customers. At Mahindra & Mahindra, and you were just sharing it with me before this discussion, you've got this fantastic app for your internal customers, which is the employees. So if you could just share with us and walk us through that journey.
Yeah, basically I'd like to take you through the journey what we've been through the last couple of years actually. Though we've been in IT from many years, we were the largest NT user in '98. Okay, but in 2010 we basically shifted gears. Okay, and with the writing on the windscreen that to enable, enhance, and engender, to drive business transformation using technology. The first major project what we ran was we consolidated all our instances into a single global instance. Today we support 72 companies across the globe on a single global instance. These cover 17 industries and 11 verticals actually. After that, the next thing what we did was we also harmonized, and as part of this project, we also harmonized processes in the areas of HR, finance, indirect material procurement, and analytics. After that, we moved on to the analytics space. With the advent of data discovery tools and min-memory tools, we took analytics to a different level. So we moved analytics to beyond dashboarding. Then on our journey to the cloud, our first test of the cloud was deploying Office 365 on the cloud. Now it's been about 3 years since we have been on Office 365. After that, we started with our mobility journey. We created a unique mobile app. Actually, in fact, that app has won the NDTV Digital Award this year, last month. So it's a unique app which is basically comprises of 70 business apps put together actually. What we did was we combined our intranet portal, our internet portal, and the employee portal. So that's the way we use to drive mobility across the organization. Because today in our organization, we are measured on user adoption and not just driving or sustaining projects actually. So that's where we are. Currently, we are converting the same app to work on Siri. In fact, you can use Siri to apply for leave on this particular app. By end December, I think the full thing will be converted to voice activated.
Sure. So I'll just extend this discussion, Richard, a little bit. In my experience, typically what happens is that solutions start driving your digital strategy in an organization rather than the digital strategy from a business perspective, business value, whether it is for your stakeholders, whether it is for your internal customers or external customers. So how would you kind of relate to this from an M&M perspective or from the industry's perspective?
From a business perspective, there was a challenge actually given to us by the group CIO. Okay, who's the group CIO, group CFO, of how can we deliver financial numbers along with the sales numbers of the month. So that's what the team has gone and automated provisioning, etc. So today we are able to deliver financial numbers on the first of the month. A system has been built in such a way that all the expenses are automatically provided. To quote an example, normally in a system what you would do is, say for example, you have paid telephone expenses for the period April to June, okay, and you're doing an accounts for the month of September. Okay, normally the system, you can configure it in such a way that you can say you want to make your provisions based on the last invoice, based on an average of the 3 months, or based on a budgeted provision. So when the system locks at 12 in the night, the system automatically provides for all these expenses. The same thing is extended to when you're talking about warranty provisioning. For a Bolero, if we want to provide 500 and an XUV we want to provide, say, 1800, the system is pre-configured. So when we lock the system in the night, the system knows the vehicles which have been sold, the provisions are made automatically. So that's the way we're trying to drive business transformation. Another huge task taken on in this year is to convert all our documents to digitized form, both the internal, the incoming and the outgoing documents. So all the outgoing documents will be enabled with a digital signature. So we have no paper documents. That's the way we're trying to drive sustainability using technology.
Sure. Kushal, Richard mentioned adoption. And I think that's a key part with digital as well. So how far do you think a business strategy or a digital agenda for a company should be business first and define where all a digital solution then kicks in, versus taking a look at what solutions are available in the market and then force fitting them to a certain extent into your own business processes? Because otherwise it sounds like a hobby, right?
So I think every business have their own nuances and their own challenges and their own ecosystem of their own customers and the reason for which they're in business as well. And although we have within the same audience at least close to 20 different companies offering solutions of various kinds, I think gone are the days when you can have all fit size all, or we'll customize. So for example, today, even if Raymond is saying make to measure or made to measure, I think that's what companies are striving to do as well. There is no reason why we perhaps will always, for the smallest company, which is perhaps even a startup, will need to define what its business model is, and then basis that entire journey of defining that and defining its reason for existence, its consumer, will then put a reason to, for example, say, what do we do on digital? Is it important? I think today, all of us have been in stages wherein we have a request from, today I almost get every 1 month, I have some CEO or CMO from a Reliance group saying, hey, we want to create an app. Please give us an advice, because I sit as advisor to the entire group. And I think, what, it's ridiculous for every company to make an app when there are almost nothing less than 1,000 apps being put out to the cloud every single day. It's not critical to make an app. A lot of people are making apps only for the simple reason it's become like a tick off at the end of the year to prove that they've done their KPI and they get an increment and appraisal. We need to realize as IT professionals or as digital people in the ecosystem that every business doesn't necessarily need an app. Every business doesn't need to be on social. Every business doesn't need to be maybe on cloud. It will need to, I think, clearly, the reason I'm answering this is that it's saying that we've got to be adaptive firstly to just understand in terms of what are we in business for. Is our consumer actually on social, or is our consumer actually still using as simple a phone, and therefore SMS is perhaps the best possible way to communicate? Similarly, for B2B businesses, I think, yes, apps is perhaps the most easiest buzzword. I think, yes, let's cogitate today and figure out saying, is it critical? We spend too much of time, effort to find and write down documents of this is the app, this is the journey, this is UI, this is UX, reach out to 50 vendors who can do the app. God knows what, we'll take almost about a good close to 6 months to mull over it, and finally, maybe after 1 year, launch the app. Only to realize that, what we did is already redundant. Which means if you want to do something, think of it fast, do it, and have the guts to put it up soon, but not just for the sake of doing it. So this is a honest, I think, large confession that, we've done quite a few mistakes within Reliance as a group and quite a few apps, and I'm speaking with experience that don't do it for the heck of doing it. Do it for a reason, which is a business or a service ultimately given to your customer.
Thanks, Kushal. And I think, Girish, that brings us to that point that we were discussing about it's one thing to talk about a digital agenda and, go ahead deploying solutions. But once these are all delivered and they're done and dusted and awards have been given, whether it's KRA or whether it's an industry award, post that the responsibility falls back onto the IT team. because it is the IT team which has to ensure the, whether it is the entire back-ended operations part of it from a cloud-based model or from an in-house based model, that you keep it alive, you keep it going. So what are those challenges which, the IT managers here need to be aware of post delivering a digital agenda?
I think, first of all, I would like to react to the point in the sense that every company and every solution to the problem need not be an app, because the context has to be understood, the need of a, really engaging the medium. When we are saying digital, need not be only app, okay? As you said, SMSs, we used SMSs to engage with our traders. The consumer is a buzzword and everybody would like to talk about consumers. We employed SMS as a solution because the big traders and farmers were not having phones which were capable to, were not smartphones. So I think the application of or digitization has to be understood in the context of what is the business challenge, what is the target audience which the challenge is catering to, and which the solution is catering to, and we have to look at it from totality. And most of these solutions need not have a big strategy document and things like that. Okay, they actually are disruptors and ideas which come, once you are on ground with the business guys. So I think the challenge lies in understanding the business more. Okay, co-creating the solutions so that really the solutions are owned up, and the business also sees technology as part of doing business, and rather than being a different department or a different function. So that's something which we have the concept which we have leveraged over the years. Coming to the challenges in terms of maintaining, I think everybody talks about ideas and implementing it, okay, but the whole thing doesn't stop in just creating an app or creating a solution. I think thought needs to go in terms of how do we sustain the momentum or the rigor which was there in creation of an idea or an app. That same kind of rigor is passed on and maintained, and ensured that the solution reaps the benefit what it was envisaged for. I think that follow through has to happen, and I think most of the places people just drop off, because once the idea is matured in terms of a solution, the first stage itself, that time itself, the idea, people who have created the solution no longer have interest in them, so interest in that particular solution. So I think if businesses have to really reap the benefit of the solutions, I think there has to be a rigorous follow through in terms of sustainability and reliability, in terms of services which the solution was conceived for. I think that area is largely being ignored right now, is my experience and my understanding of the situation today.
Sure. Richard, I think Girish is reflecting the adoption part and measure of that. So, could you share with us a quick sneak peek into what Mahindra & Mahindra is talking about from a monitoring adoption perspective?
Yeah. Of recent, we have a little bit of a radical thought, actually. We were talking about no user requirement, no user testing. It does sound a bit radical, actually. But if you look at it, we prefer to follow a Steve Jobs approach. Steve Jobs never went around collecting information as to what do you need in an iPhone. He knew what the user required. So today in our IT team, me included, I'm an ex-CFO who has crossed over to IT. We have a lot of domain experts in the knowledge. So what we do is, because if you go to an end user really can't give you his requirement, because he has very limited knowledge about his space. He really doesn't know what IT can deliver. But if you have a domain expert within the IT infrastructure, the person can really put business and IT together and really deliver value. But how do we drive adoption? When we develop a solution, we intentionally make it about 80% what the user needs, and we leave the balance 20% for the user to add his inputs. So by the user adding that 20% inputs, he actually owns the app or the application and drives it as his part. So that's the way we're able to drive user adoption. At the same point of time, bring in benefits of domain knowledge and technology knowledge put together. So that helps us drive the applications much better and definitely much faster.
Actually, I'd just like to add that, I mean, the theme of the conference was business technology. The real magic happens when there's a marriage of business need and the technology solution. You know, if it's not, okay, then it either remains a technical solution where adoption is a challenge, or it remains a business challenge with no solution because, you know, there's no, I mean, technologists don't feel it, really luring enough to have a solution for that part of business. So I think business technology is the new buzzword probably.
That's true. In fact, very anecdotally, a lot of us, we were talking about it, that technology is one function which has pervaded across all functions. Now, there is no specific technology manager kind of a role in non-IT companies. It's actually everyone needs to know their technology. Kushal, final thoughts on, post-implementation of a digital strategy. What are the things that, as a business head, you would want IT managers or people who are responsible for the digital delivery to keep focus on and monitor?
So I'll try to answer that question really in a different manner. So we have a company which is about 200,000 people working for us across different businesses from telecom, retail, infrastructure, financial services. And I think what we're doing at Reliance is that given that we keep having investments into different sort of verticals all the time, we believe the future is going to be of people who can create their own businesses and become entrepreneurs in our company, keeping in mind digital, which means, for example, the largest companies which have the largest valuation across the world today is companies like Airbnb, Uber, Pinterest, Instagram. They were created with just service as offering to people, and therefore millions of people use them. So I think the future for large companies, be it a Mahindra, be it a Reliance, and many others, and I can talk at least for our companies, that the vision for us is clearly that businesses are going to change in the next few years or few decades in terms of just the way they are built. And their fundamental reason for existence is going to be perhaps a need gap or a shift in terms of how we just change our lives. Like, for example, earlier this morning, someone spoke about that it is our life which is changing. Our habits are changing. We're not reading the paper in the morning. We're not seeing television in the evening. So all of those things, for example, changing the way we're sort of consuming our products and services. So is there a method to the madness for companies to sort of create also products and services which don't exist today, but will exist even just next week? But it is more as a service for a changing lifestyle, for a changing new customer. So therefore, whether it is for our mutual fund business, we could probably have a digital fund. For example, our telecom service, perhaps we need to have a different way that we're doing our business with our people. For example, a hospital that we run, it could be very much that we will change the way, for example, your medical checkup can get done, which means that we are clearly saying that it's got to be breakthrough innovation in this clutter, and only that's going to rampantly be able to change ecosystem in the country.
Thanks, Kushal. Richard, final thoughts on the digital?
Just a final thoughts, actually, would like to quote what Anand Mahindra said at the strategy meeting, actually, is we should not look at return on investment, actually, for IT. As long as we are able to elevate the pain which a user is going through in any part of the business, I think IT has really transformed that.
Thanks. Girish?
I think I spoke about technology and business creating magic. I think let's not get enamored by buzzwords of IoT and analytics and things like that. Actually, the magic really happens when the technology guys interact with business on ground to solve real world problems. Okay, so I think that's the crux of the whole thing. Okay, if you just do secondary research about sensors and just look at what are the new sensors coming in, actually you would create a solution which is not really the need for the business. So I think the key aspect, as I see it, is actually getting engaged with the business and delivering solutions for the business using all these technologies. And what you see as in secondary research or in YouTube videos and what actually happens on ground, Okay, when you interact with the business guys, when you actually move on the field, that's where the reality dawns, and the solution could be totally different, though using the same technologies. I think the marriage of technology and business is the most important key, aspect which all of us have to take care as far as IT is concerned.
Well, thank you very much, Girish. And just to kind of sum it up, the way my takeaways from this discussion are more about precisely what you said, that it has to be a kind of a very tight interface between business requirements and technology. Think through in terms of what has to be the digital solution that is relevant to your businesses, rather than just going and getting seduced by all these options which are available in the market. And also, a solution which, like Richard had spoken about, which is very specific and which has a very clear user adoption case, so that it gets used and it is delivering value in the company. I think those are the key things whenever you go and move towards building and delivering a digital enterprise. I'd like to thank the panelists for these views, and I'd like to open up for any Q&A at this stage. So anyone has any questions?
Yeah, Shiv Shankar Datta this side from Fiat Chrysler. Very good discussion. I have just one comment and one question. The comment is, I think we talked about technology, usability of the technology. So I think here it depends upon the stage of the technology to a business. Like, for example, there are some businesses where you need to provide the basic things because the business is hungry for the systems. So you need to provide the basic things. There you need to provide the basic meal to the business. Once you have delivered the basic meal, then I think to be relevant for the business, IT department or IT people should think and innovate about the say next course, which to provide the next course to the business, which probably business is not thinking today. By delivering that, probably business will get the benefit tomorrow, which business cannot think, but the technology people can think. And I think Mahindra has gone to that journey, and they have provided the basic requirement. Now they are in a position to innovate and provide something which probably business is not thinking today, but will start using it and get the benefits. Now, my question specifically for the Mahindra, I would like to understand, can you give us one example where the technology has actually benefited the foot soldiers of your auto business? That means the foot soldiers are typically the salespeople in your dealership. So any technology which has actually transformed the way they have been doing the work.
Yeah, I'd like to share one example actually is using in-memory technology of HANA. Okay. We've been able to compute inventory carrying cost at a component level, attach that component level inventory carrying cost to a buyer. So we've changed the entire way of looking at inventories from number of days to identifying who is the buyer responsible and how many crores of interest has the company lost because of the particular buyer and because of the relevant components. Traditionally, we always looked at inventory in terms of number of days. So with the compute power of HANA, we were able to radically change the way we think. And today we always spoke of inventory carrying cost. We were never able to compute inventory carrying cost. Now we are able to compute inventory carrying cost at a component level. So it moves to more actionable analytics than normal analytics. We're talking about inventory. See, basically I'll have to explain the entire thing. What we did was traditionally look at inventory in number of days, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you always split it between bought out parts, manufactured parts, finished goods, which is finished vehicle inventory. So what we did was we explored it. To take an example, suppose if I have 10,000 tires in stock, okay, we match the 10,000 tires with the bill of material. It tells me I can make 2,000 vehicles. If I match those 2,000 vehicles with my production plan of 500 vehicles, the first impact it gives the build is the chief executive that you have 1,500 extra vehicles. The next thing it tells you is that out of the 1,500 vehicles extra, maybe 200 tires are obsolete, they don't form part of your production plan throughout the year. The next thing what we did was we kept reducing the inventory from the production plan each month, put an interest factor to it. So we ended up calculating the inventory carrying cost at a component level, attach that component to the buyer, saying that this is the buyer who's really responsible for this inventory. And we know which is the part component to that. So by bringing it down to a granular level, with the compute power of HANA, actually, we were able to do this. Earlier, with the earlier systems, this was not possible.
This actually I think is more towards the production area. I was more interested to know about the sales area, like your dealership is selling the cars, selling the vehicles. So any technology which has helped them or transformed them, their way of working.
We are currently working on that. Basically, we had initially last 2 years deployed Sidecar HANA to test the capability of HANA. We are working on promise to delivery, which when you stand at the dealership, you'll be able to know exactly which date you'll get your red color vehicle. But that will come through when we completely migrate onto HANA.
So on a very different note, let me just add to that answer that Richard's given. Your question is very pertaining the sales feet on street. So let me give you the BFSI example. In my recent role, what we did at Fullerton was approval in principle for loans. So it's a very similar sales challenge wherein a person who's out on the field doesn't know the case details that he's logging in. He'll have to run to the branch, log it in. Then some central underwriting team will let him know after a day or two that this case will go through or not. So we delivered a very simple app equivalent to him on field on his mobile, which is an approval in principle. It's obviously in the back end, there is a CRM system and there is a rule engine which is working. But on the field upfront, by keying in some 10 fields, he knows whether this is a red case, an amber case, or a green case. And this, on the BFSI side, I thought I could just add to that example.
Good example.
I'll just add from the sales side. If I don't know whether that's what you're looking for, is that we started using a Salesforce app which was developed and implemented in 2006. After that, we moved on to an Android-based solution. So basically, it started off just as a replacement to pen and paper for order taking in those days. But as we gathered more and more information, what we started doing is we started linking it to the history of that particular outlet's data and equip the sales rep with kind of a prompt which will tell what is the stock which was purchased last time in his last visit, what is that he can push this time, what are the schemes which are running for a particular product, what are the new products which have got launched, and these are the products which needs to push even if the retailer doesn't call for it. Okay, so those are the kind of interventions in terms of alerts and exceptions which we were able to build in that particular app. Now, as the data has kept on increasing and we have been able to leverage analytics to really come to a solution where I wouldn't say it's 100%, but based on some characteristics of the retailer as well as on the basis of past history, can we create a model on which will, out of, let us say, 150 different product SKUs which a distributor sales rep is supposed to call out or sell in a particular retailer, can it prompt for those top 10 SKUs which are sure to be sold in that particular retailer, so that you can optimize the time spent by each distributor sales rep at the retailer. So this is the place where we are trying to leverage analytics to come to that shortlisting of those SKUs which are relevant for that particular retailer. So this is the use case we have in Marico. I don't know whether it answers your question. So.
Okay. Are there any more questions? Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll take one more question over here.
What role do you see for a chief digital officer? Because many companies have started, looking at that role. And I think 2 days back there was a news that the Tata Group has installed chief digital officers in many of its companies. So what role do you see for a chief digital officer, and what is the kind of interplay of this role with the CIO role?
role I play in my current company. So I can probably just address that to you. I think it's clearly, I think, a very hyperactive role. You need to almost know by the pulse of what is really happening in terms of, not just in terms of technology nuances and developments across the world, but I think just be, I think, almost, I think, cognizant of almost everything your competition is doing using technology to also leapfrog and think innovation. So I think I don't know, in terms of every company will define this in a different manner. So I think a chief digital officer, a chief innovation officer, a chief digital technology officer, and these will keep happening as well. But I think the fundamental thing is if you have an ability to marry a mind which is thinking technology, at the same time you've got to be very, I think, numbered in your approach as well. So it's got to be clearly basis the business goals, KPIs of the businesses. So that's essentially the role of this gentleman, because he's going to be sort of, I think, working hand in glove with marketing, with technology, with information, with finance, every single person. And more often than not, sometimes I'll tell you, for example, that this gentleman is going to get caught in a whirlwind as well, because he would at stages be reporting to, for example, even the chairman's office, but he would need to get done work through other people as well. And that's where I think typically, I think companies will need to redefine in terms of their organizational mapping of just typical ways of who's going to do work with who. So it's great to say that, yeah, we work as a team, but we've got to understand that, yes, there are, I think, fundamental economics of how people work politically as well. So that's going to be a large challenge in time to come, and we'll see how it functions in India. But I think, yes, it's a great step that lots of companies are taking to even put this in system, and they will need to work with multiples of people to get work done, because it's not a one-man job.
Sure, okay. Thank you very much, panel. Thank you for your thoughts. I think we'll wrap up this discussion now. Some people in the background fervently waving out saying time up. So great interacting with you. The questions were very pertinent. Thank you very much. Thanks, Kushal. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Girish.
Thanks.
Thank you. But before the panel leaves the stage, we would request Mr. Ed Nair, editor at Large Data Quest, to please join us on stage to hand over a memento to our esteemed panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to say a huge thank you to Mr. Kushal Sanghvi, Head Reliance Entertainment and Digital, Mr. Samir Khare, ex-CIO, Fullerton, India, Mr. Richard D'Souza, Vice President and Head Business Solutions, Mahindra & Mahindra, and to Mr. Girish Rao, Head IT, Marico. Please get your hands together once again, ladies and gentlemen, for the panelists on stage. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on stage.